Hello and welcome to Hexed Countered. My name is Joe. Today I'm going to be continuing my series on Tiger Leader as part of Tanktoberfest here on Hexed Countered. The main difference now is I'm actually going to play with the expansion items. So as you can see here, I have the base game box. I have my expansion number 1, Blitzkrieg. I have my expansion number 2, Panzers, and I have the World War II Tank Leader Commander cards, which work with both Tiger Leader and Sherman Leader. So I kind of discovered through chatting with commenters on both YouTube and on Board Game Geek that I was actually playing that campaign incorrectly by not splitting my forces up to determine which battalions, which enemy battalions were attacked by which units. Basically, each unit in your force can fight one battle per week. And so obviously I was doing that incorrectly. So originally my third video was going to be the third battle of the first week, which should have wrapped up that week, and I could show the end of week process, etc., etc. But instead, what we're going to do here is I'm going to start a brand new campaign. I am going to choose, I'm going to use all the expansions. So what do you get in your expansion? So here's the Blitzkrieg expansion. So you get some enemy battalion chits here, full and half strength. And then you also get a bunch of new commander cards. And they're the typical spread of armor, lots of armor, light armor, infantry, and artillery, and more armor at the back there. So, you know, the typical thing, you start as a recruit. So you start as a recruit. Here's your stats. Then you get promoted to green. Your stats improve a little bit. Then you become average. And then skilled. Then veteran. And as you can see, the cost to get promoted as you go up the ladder gets increasingly high. But you also get much better statistics down here, or much better abilities. I mean, Schneider here is a marksman, and he's okay from 0 to 5 stress, which is really nice, but his speed is fast. And he gets a +1 at 0 and a +2 at 1+ on the attack roll, which is excellent. And then if we flip it over to his legendary size, there's no promotion because legendary is as high as you can go. You can see he's now 0 to 7 is okay, and 8 to 14 shaken. So you might wonder what happens when you go beyond shaken. Then you become unfit, and basically that leaves your unit without a commander, and it takes some penalties during gameplay, which you want to avoid, obviously. So aside from these two things, you also get a bunch of regular, well, maybe not regular, you get a bunch of the other cards that you need for the game. So we have battalion cards that go with these chits, right? So you'd expect that. So they go together. And there's a decent number of them here. Looks like there's 14. So these all go, see, 13A. And on here, here's 13A. So they go together. And there's different types, okay? So you have command, you have supply, and you have, of course, assault. So those go with that. And then you also have new event cards. So you increase your event card deck by 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 new event cards. You get things like infantry cohesion, which adds 2 to your rolls during the battle for your basically your non-armored units, your non-vehicle units. Then we get some new special condition cards. There's only a handful of these, 5. Things like enemy reinforcements. So those can sometimes be good, sometimes be bad. Then you have new objective cards, 3 of those. Green unit, elite unit, slow is smooth. So these are actually kind of nice if you look at them. Elite unit is nice. 45 battalion points. Weekly SO is +8. The green gets +10, but has a lot fewer battalion points. So just a way to kind of increase or decrease the difficulty, basically. And then we get new campaigns. So there are 5 new campaigns here. We have Kursk, which is a great one. I mean, if you're going to have a tank game, you might as well have Kursk, right? Stalingrad, that's a good one. The Bulge, Poland Mokra, and France Tunisia in 42. So some interesting stuff there. We're going to play one of these. I'm leaning towards actually towards Kursk, but could also be Stalingrad. So both of these are winter terrain too, so we'd see a new terrain type. So it'll be Kursk or Stalingrad. I'm still weighing that in my mind. So now we're going to take a look at the second expansion, the Panzers expansion. So with an expansion named Panzers, you would actually expect to get some new tanks, right? So that's what we've got. We've got new unit cards here. They're not all tanks, as you can see. They're not all tanks. Got some half tracks, some infantry, etc. So with these, which are 24 new units comes new unit cards. So and with your, so here, I mean, these are pretty standard. These look just like what's in the base game. The silhouettes of the tanks in here are really cool because they are the tank that is represented in that, with that counter. So if we look at the Panther, so obviously the Panther, it's not a Tiger, but it's a pretty famous and powerful tank. It's got pretty good stats. It costs 15 SO to purchase it, and its number is 602. And then you can see here, it's got a defense of 3. Speed is only 1, but that's not that bad. It's large and has a -1 attack when moving. AP attack is 4, so that's pretty good. When you're rolling a D10, you only need a 4 to hit. Of course, you get modifiers naturally, but that's still pretty good. Range is 3, 0 to 3, and the high explosive attack is 6. So that's a pretty solid tank. And here's its counter right here. So you can see the silhouette of the counter and the tank are identical. So that's, I mean, I know that's not really a big deal, but it's a nice touch that I appreciate. So just looking at what we've got here card-wise for these 24 new units. We've got a Panzer III with a 75mm gun. Got a couple of those, actually. 3 of them, apparently. Then we've got some armored cars here. The 234/2 with the long-barreled gun. And we've got another one, same thing. There's 3 of those. There's a 234/3 short. So obviously short-barreled gun. We also have 3 of those. And we've got a 234/4 with the 75mm cannon. Obviously, that's a pretty good one. 16 is the cost. Largely because of the speed. It can move 2 hexes in a turn, which is nice. And its AP attack is a 5, and so is its HE attack, so that's also very nice. We get 3 of those. We get a Martyr 3 tank destroyer. So that costs 11, and it's also got an AP attack of 5. Now, the thing with the tank destroyers is they have to be at least a hex away. So we have 3 Martyr 3s. Then we get into a couple of theoreticals here. We have the the E50, which I believe is the Elephant. And obviously it's a big mother with a speed of 1, armor of defense, which is basically armor, of 4. The AP attack is 3. That's a big beastie right there. And then we got the even bigger beastie here, the E100, which has a defense of 5. And its AP attack is a 3. HE's 4. I mean, that's a monster right there. Then we get a Panzer Jaeger 1 from a little bit earlier in the war. And we get a Martyr 2 as well. Panzer II. The Panther I already showed. We get a 251 anti-tank gun. That's got a decent HP or AP attack rather. Then we get some rifle teams. We get a basic rifle team here, which is pretty identical, which basically is identical to what we have in the main game. But you don't run out of unit mix basically by getting a couple extra rifle teams. And here we have an experienced rifle team. So their stats are slightly better. They have a defense of 4, which is really outstanding for a soft unit. So, and that's the 24 units you get in the Panzers expansion. So now we'll take a look at the tank commanders, and then we'll be ready to wrap this video up, because this will be a nice short one, just looking at what you get with your expansions, and then I'll do another video where I'm actually going to play with them. Okay, so here we have our World War II Tank Leader Commander cards. Now this one is a little different from the others because it works with both Sherman Leader and Tiger Leader. So basically, and it actually, before I get into what the cards actually look like, we have an instruction sheet that comes with it. Because this one, unlike the others, which just kind of add to the base game, this actually adds some new rules as well. So you have the ability to have bunkers, for example. Commanders give you bonuses, and commanders have abilities. And so I'll talk about this when we go through the game and how it works and everything. But this expansion is actually pretty cool because it adds a little bit extra to the game that actually utilizes counters and stuff that I was not able to use with the base game. So as for the commander cards themselves, you get a wide variety of opponents. So basically all the opponents from both Sherman and Tiger Leader are in this deck, right? So we have Poland, as you would expect. And then we have France. So let's just take a look at the Polish commanders, right? So here's a commander card. Vladislav Bortnovsky, okay? No adjustment. So he doesn't make any adjustments. Under strength, he rolls 1 fewer attack die, but his defense improves by 1. So he's basically a defensive commander. Then you'll have Emil Fieldorf, gains 2 SOs. When you face him, you gain 2 SOs. He's aggressive, so his movement is +2, his attack is +2, and his defense is -1. Boleslav Dush, 2 SOs, defensive type. Here we have rifle reinforcement from Bernard Mond. And you have Antoni Zilling. And you lose 2 SOs at the end of the battle because he's got a harassment. Tank reinforcement gains 3 SOs, but you get a tank unit, an additional tank unit when he's in charge. Fixed position, here's one where he adds a bunker. And then this guy really doesn't do much, and you kind of draw these randomly like you would, like you would your battalion cards or the event cards, etc. That way you don't know. I mean, you can choose to pick one specifically if you'd like, but you can also draw them randomly, in which case you might get somebody that doesn't really have an impact. So now let's look at the French commanders. So here's France, right? Same kind of thing. The cards are all similar in what they do. There's a little bit of a mix in there, but you gain 2 SOs and you add a bunker. You gain 3 SOs. This guy has a terrain impact. And you gain 2 SOs. He's defensive, so their defensive abilities are improved. Scouts, this guy gets this guy prevents you from basically getting full advantage of cover. Motivated infantry, rifle units can move 2 hexes. That's actually pretty advantageous for them. Here's someone who gives you no SO adjustment, and you lose 2 SOs at the end of the battle. And here's our no adjustment guy. And here's, so you see that you get pretty much the same type of stuff, but the mixture is a little bit different. Now we'll go to British. Our British commanders, and there you go, Bernard Montgomery, right? 2 SOs, reputation. All player commanders in this battle suffer 1 stress at the start of the battle. So he's giving you an extra stress for all your commanders, which isn't good. Whistler gives you 1 SO and some motivated infantry like we saw on the French cards. John Harding, no adjustment, under strength. Pip Roberts, close quarters, +2 on range 0 attacks. Charles Gardner, 2 SOs, another aggressive guy. Gatehouse gives us that rifle reinforcement. Briggs, 2 SOs, defensive. Arthur Fisher, no adjustment. Now we get into the Soviets. So we have Konev with his motivated infantry. Vasilev, green, defense -1, battle lasts 1 less turn. Vinogradov, standard no adjustment guy. Zhukov, he gets a command half track. So they have little chits that actually came in the base game. Like this, which would be what Zhukov would get, his commander half track. So you get a half track at the start of the battle in Hex 2 until the half track is destroyed. All units gain +1 attack and defense. Command tank, so that's similar to what Zhukov had, except it's a tank and you add a tank and you get 3 SOs for that. And then you get a tank reinforcement. I think we saw that with Poland as well. Buttoned up changes some of the tank statistics. So there you have your Soviets, and now we'll look at the Americans. So Americans, we have Gaffey, tank reinforcement with 3 SOs, Grow, 3 SOs and spotters, no attack penalties for attacks at long range. That's pretty good. William Paul gets the command half track. Ernest Harmon, fixed position, that's the bunker. Maurice Rose gets the scouts that basically degrade your cover. Leonard gets 1 SO and grouped. When rolling for starting hexes, adjust rolls by 1 closer to 6. So you're kind of clumping the units together. Horace McBride is our no adjustment guy. Red Irwin is green. And we're back to Gaffey. Now, I've heard some people ask, why isn't Patton in there? Montgomery's in there, Zhukov's in there, etc. I don't know. That you would have to ask Dean Brown or somebody else from Danvers and Games to figure that out. Now, these two obviously go with Sherman Leader. But we'll take a look at them anyway. So here's our Germans. And they're all pretty much the same kind of thing. Close armor combat is a new one. I don't think we've seen this one yet. The AP units move 2 hexes instead of 1 and roll an extra attack die at range 0. That's a pretty tough one. We got our bunker man here. Here's Rommel. So again, Rommel's in here, Patton's not. That's I've heard that complaint in some places online. Command tank, that makes sense for Rommel, right? Here's our no adjustment fellow. We have an aggressive. We have close quarters. Defensive. Heinz Guderian. Terrain. So he gets terrain, the opposite of scout, basically. He improves terrain. So his defense will get +2 and heavy cover gets +3. So that's, pretty nice. Hoth gets the command truck. And so that's the Germans. And then we have Japanese as well. So you have some Japanese for when you're playing Sherman Leader and you're playing in the Pacific. Okada has spotters for the long range, no penalty. Takashina has no adjustment. We got the Prince here. He's got a bunker. Yamaji, aggressive. Hoshino, scouts. That's a good one. Hosomi gets close quarters. Iwanaka, motivated infantry. And we're back to the beginning. So there you have all the commander cards. So we're likely going to be using this deck here, the Russian commanders. I will probably play Stalingrad or Kursk. I haven't decided yet which one. I'll actually look at those and make that call. But I'll save the terrain. Well, maybe I'll do the terrain now. Let's do the terrain now. I'll show you the terrain as well, and then we're going to wrap this up. Okay, so here we have Terrain Tile Pack 1. So we get the same basic 4 types: Europe, winter, desert, and jungle, with the corners of the of the pieces having a triangle that denotes which type it is. Then you have, it actually includes some, I'll show you that when we look at the actual tiles, but it denotes what type of cover it is, whether it's light cover or heavy cover, which is something the base game doesn't have, but I find very useful. Then there are 4 new types of terrain: roads, rivers, bogging, and outposts. So here's the example of roads. So you have to go, if you draw a road, you have to pull a second road out. You look for it so that you can make a contiguous path, essentially. And you do the same thing with rivers. And it also explains what those do as far as how they affect movement. Like roads obviously make movement easier. Rivers make movement more difficult. You have to pay a move to cross or to enter a river, and then another one to cross it to the other side. And then you have bogging hexes. You have to roll a die that will determine if you're stuck or not. So you can get stuck, bogged down, obviously. And then outpost tiles, they can be placed only in the top and middle rows. And that's where the bunker goes. So when you have a commander who has a bunker, you need to use the outpost hexes so that you can place the bunker. There's also barbed wire hexes and minefield hexes in this group. So here we have an example of European. Okay, so this is European and it's 2 roads, right? So we have our green triangle up here that indicates it's European terrain. Road going through it. Road, 1 free road to road move each turn. So if you have a movement or a speed of 1, it becomes a 2 if you're on the road, because you can go, you can move basically, if you're here, you can move up to this one with 1 movement point. On the other side here, you would have desert. So desert road, same thing, except that the terrain type is desert. So we have our brown triangle, and these are popping out. They pop out really easily, which is both good and bad. And then here's an example of bogging terrain. So it tells you right on here, which makes it really easy and convenient. You roll the D10, lower than 3, you're stuck for the battle. 4 to 7, you have to stop for the turn, so you can't fire. And then 8 and higher is no effect. So obviously you have a pretty decent chance of this jacking up your turn when you enter one of these terrain hexes. On the back of that is bogging in the desert. And then we have more European terrain. Here's the L for light cover. So that's light cover. Now here's the river. So you have river here, and it tells you spend 1 move to enter the hex, spend 1 move to move to the other side of the hex. So basically you'd put your unit here. That would be 1, and then you'd have to pay another 1 to cross over. And on the back, we have a desert river. So you can see basically the European and desert are kind of stacked together. Okay, so here we have outposts. So here's an outpost. This is where you would place your bunker. And then you have barbed wire minefields as well. So basically it's a protected area. It's a little bit harder to crack into there because barbed wire, if you roll under a 7, you have to retreat. So basically you have to roll an 8 just to get through the wire. Minefields obviously can destroy your unit. You roll under a 3, you're destroyed. You roll a 4 to 7, you draw 2 damage. 8 plus, no effect. So this goes in the top 2 rows. And that makes your battlefield significantly more dangerous. Here's another European. Here we have some jungle. So you wouldn't really use this probably until you got into the Pacific. You can see it has the white triangle here. And this is heavy cover and impassable. So impassable, if your armor and light armor cannot enter these hexes. So if you're a tank half-track or an armored car, you cannot enter those hexes. They're impassable. And on the other side, we have winter with, again, light cover. Another outpost backed by winter outpost. Here we have a jungle river backed by winter river. So you get the full mix. Here's jungle with impassable, winter, just basic winter light cover terrain. Bogging, again, for jungle. Bogging for winter. And then here we have some heavy cover and a road and a winter road. Heavy cover jungle road and a road with light cover in this hex on the other side. So that is Terrain Pack 1. And here is Terrain Pack 2, which is basically, this is the same. So it's pretty much the same, except that what this one adds is urban, riverfront, and industrial. So this is stuff that would be handy to have if you were playing something like, say, Stalingrad. So here's urban, and you can see here, you got the U that indicates it's urban, the green triangle, so it's European, light cover with the buildings, and then you just have some regular light cover on the bottom. And then on the other side, you have urban winter. So again, this is probably good for things like Stalingrad. Here's industrial. Also would be good for, say, Stalingrad. Heavy cover in the industrial areas, which would make sense. It's a lot thicker. The buildings are bigger, etc. We have desert industrial. Then we have on the back, we have jungle industrial and winter industrial. Then we have some more desert and bogging on the back, bogging and impassable, European, oh actually jungle. That's jungle with the white triangle, or light gray, I guess is technically what that is. This is European, just some light cover here with the trees. On the back we've got winter, same thing basically. And then here's our riverfront. So it's got a river, but it's also got industry and city stuff around it as well. So you have heavy cover over here, light cover, and you still have to do the one to enter, one to cross river. Same thing for the desert. On the back, you got more winter and jungle. And then we've got desert riverfront, more European riverfront with the green. And on the back, we have winter and, again, jungle. So those are the two terrain packs. Obviously, we won't be using the jungle because I am playing Tiger Leader. We'll be playing a European battle. As I said, it's probably going to be Stalingrad or Kursk. And we will be using winter terrain and possibly some city terrain, depending on what it says to do for the Stalingrad, if that's the one we choose. So that will wrap it up here. This took a lot longer than I thought it would, but it does provide a pretty good guide to everything you get if you buy all three expansions for Tiger Leader / Sherman Leader. So that's going to do it. I appreciate you watching as always. Thank you. Please like, share, and subscribe if you would. That would be awesome. Greatly appreciated. And until next time, my name is Joe. This has been Hexed Countered, and as always, happy gaming.